the show begin. Next generation for the win. We're going all in. All together now, let's begin. Let the show begin.
Well, this new generation of traveller is tech savvy and connected and embracing tools like video, maps, and Lens more than ever. A huge thank you to WiT and Sihoon for bringing this together and bringing us all together. I found this theme so invigorating and very eye-opening. Actually got me thinking how much life has changed just since last year. I mean, for this presentation alone, I used 4 AI touch points to prepare. I used Gemini to brainstorm, or some other people might use ChatGPT, and I used Notebook LLM, which is my favourite tool that we have out there at the moment, to help me research and prepare. Where was that? I don't know, 5 years ago or 10 years ago when I started with you guys? It would have been very helpful. But let's skip into what's motivating the traveller today. First, it's really important to look at the macro picture so that we understand where the opportunities lie. So it's clear that we've navigated turbulent years, but the industry in Asia-Pac is now not only recovered, but it's reached a new equilibrium. This is a stability, is the foundation for a bright future. APAC now is not just keeping pace, but it's setting it. As many of you know, APAC travellers continue to be the powerhouse behind the global travel industry. In fact, the data speaks from itself, where we see that 2 out of 5 of the top source markets are now in APAC. And if you count China, because you probably should, that's 3 of 5. And what's most interesting is that when we surveyed people with our latest Kantar report, we found that people today, more than 80% of our travellers, are keen to travel more than ever before. In fact, that's 6 points up from 2022 when we had revenge travel. And their average trips range from 4 in China, which is really high, around to 3. And that's both for business and leisure. What's really interesting to me within all this data is how buoyant APAC travel is despite the economic and political uncertainties. It's been a volatile world, but travel continues to have a bright beat. And this is because travel is no longer a luxury, but it's a deep-seated need for people in APAC. They are prioritising their experiences and their connections incredibly well for the future of our industry. In fact, what we're seeing in terms of driving for demand in 2024 is that travel and the demand that's coming out of our region is predominantly driven by international for 2024. And we expect this to be a trend into the next year. And you can see powerhouses like Japan and India, of course, there. India, if I got that question, Sihoon, would be my bet. But also Australia and Indonesia are keen to travel internationally as well. So you need to think about that as you're building your brands and marketing. But this is the good news. It's not just a fleeting trend. It's a sustained wave of growth. If you have a look at our data from Euromonitor, you can see that we are projecting, and Euromonitor is projecting, $140 billion worth of growth in the next 4 years. That's driven by 56 million new young travellers in our region with having an increasingly large disposable income. This is a dynamic landscape and one where we can innovate and have a bright future. Okay, so that's how. Now let's look at why. What are the motivations behind our next generation travellers? Well, the first thing I'm here to say is that it's no longer about where, but why. The luxury has become a need, and as a part of it, it's now part of people's value systems. And what we're seeing is that people see travel as the ultimate reward. And you can see that things that are motivating them are things such as healing from stress, exploring new cultures, but it all resonates and accumulates around self-discovery and personal growth. People want transformative experiences from their travel, and that is what they're demanding from brands today. What we see that people in India and Indonesia in particular are looking to have a break away from every day. And people in Australia, Japan and Korea are using travel as a sense of healing and well-being. And what we can see from the next set of results from our Kantar survey is that whilst everyone does have a budget for travel, because that's just life, what we see are people willing to splurge on travel for the experiences they value. In fact, 60% of our respondents said they're happy to splurge on particular elements, such as luxury experiences, more than ever. And that's 3 points up, again, from 2022, when we had the revenge travel. People are looking to pay more for their business class trips, or pay for a business class trip, should I say, over perhaps economy, and they're looking for luxury accommodations still. So the trip is really no longer anchored on the destination, and I think this is what's hard for everyone in the industry today and where AI becomes so important, because people are now motivated and focused on the experience, and as a result, the customer journey is no longer linear. In fact, travellers change their minds all the time. On average, APAC travellers said that they'll change their destination twice, their accommodation twice, and the airline almost twice as they are exploring the travellers. I know myself, recently, we were going on a family holiday. I had visions of going skiing with my 3 little kids. I had booked one destination, but after booking that, I found a much cheaper experience which looked and felt the same and gave me the experience I wanted, and so I changed. I cancelled flights, hotels, the whole thing. Call me crazy, but that's what people are doing today. And this is really important because the brands need to build trust for the long term with people, because the race is no longer over when the booking is done. It's not over till the journey has started. And you need to think about that in terms of your communications and your strategies. So my advice to everyone around here is that if travellers are seeing travel as a reward, it is our job as brands and marketeers to give them a rewarding experience, because they won't hesitate to change their minds, and that will become your competitive edge. This needs to come from marketing, from your websites, from apps, and the actual delivery, of course, of the end-to-end experience. So that's how. Let's quickly that is the why. Now let's move on to how you can capture this appetite. Well, first thing I want to say is that AI is becoming really important, because the traveller journey is new and we can't rely on old tools and methods to capture their attention. In fact, what we see in search is that every day, 15% of searches are new. That to me is quite striking. But it also proves out a challenge, and you need to think about how you're speaking to your customers, because what you knew today may not be necessarily true tomorrow, and you won't be able to capture them the same way. What we've also seen from this next generation is that they're incredibly visual. Video is more important than ever. And in fact, 6 out of 10 said that travellers said they use a visual touch point for travel inspiration and booking. And that luckily for us, at the moment, YouTube is still the #1 source for travel inspiration. And is amongst the top 4 touch points when looking for accommodation reviews and experiences. As you all think about building out your brand, you need to think of video as linear. So build for one video platform and expand it, because it's core to your marketing strategy and you cannot succeed without it with this next generation of travel. What's also incredibly important is that the value occasion. What consumers today are after is a value at first, so yes, that comes to price, as we discussed earlier, but over time, trust is what will keep the consumer coming back time and time again. And this comes down to how you're using their data and also how you're engaging with people. Now, personalization is a non-starter. If a consumer has handed over their data, they expect you to use it. There's nothing more frustrating for a traveler than to give you your preferences and you ignore it. So think about how you use your first-party data, because it is going to give you a competitive edge against everyone, particularly for the long term. So I'm a little bit short on time, so I'm going to fly through the next 2 slides. But if you haven't heard it enough today, what you can see is that first-party data is critical and how you use this first-party data. And that AI is not only as good as the data you give it. So you want to make sure you're combing through your data and make sure it's making a lot of sense and is useful. And then the relationships that you're building with people are all about this value exchange. At first, it will come down to the price, and then you need to build trust and make sure you're giving them that personalized experience. And what we can see from our survey is that AI has already gained significant traction. And that 6 out of 10 of travellers are already using AI tools whilst they're researching and booking their travel. So they use it to help them save time, best price, accurate. So when you are building out your strategy, you need to put yourself in the shoes of the traveller to make sure that you are relevant and are there when they need you. And with that, I'd like to say it's a very bright future. We should all be seizing this opportunity, and I look forward to seeing the next generation and what they'll challenge us to in the years to come. Thank you very much.
They're ready now. Let the show begin. Next generation for the win. We're going all in. Take center stage now. Let's begin. Let the show